Alright, now let's play some more of Lamplight City. I have no idea what... Oh, I got the message. Yeah, so I should go. Yes, we had the conversation. Oh, ships there.
Building those model ships was a good way to pass the time between cases. Hopefully it'll be a while before you get enough time to build another one.
Yeah, I think I did.
There's no time to waste, Miles. You need to go meet Upton.
Ah. That's a shame. Alright, let's go and meet her.
Hello, Upton.
I'm glad you came, Fordham. Sorry for disturbing you this late.
I wonder how she's gonna react. Probably not gonna be too pissed off, but maybe a bit offended. Oh well. Let's see what this is.
I'm curious to know what's so important that it couldn't wait until morning.
An infant kidnapping in Lyon. The report came in tonight, just before my shift ended. The family wants to keep the investigation very low-key. They're afraid if word gets out, they'll have all sorts of ne'er-do-wells making false ransom claims. That's why I suggested they let you investigate first. Head over to 45 Belcourt Street. That's the home of Malcolm and Miriam Harris, the parents of the kidnapped boy.
Harris? As in Harris Construction Company?
The very same. Owned by Malcolm's father, no less. Now you see why they wanted to keep this out of the public eye.
Indeed. If they manage to get a new transatlantic airship off the ground, it'll be an aura mine. I can see why they'd make an easy target. Don't worry, Upton. I'll get the kid back before you can say hot toddy.
Hot toddy. I think you're losing your touch, Fordham.
And I think you've lost your joke book. Try some new material for a change, would you?
Right. Good luck on your investigation. Come see me again once you figured things out, or if you just need to talk. I'll be here all day tomorrow as well, so feel free to stop by.
Okay then, so I guess she likes the jokes, to be honest. And that last choice, I didn't feel like saying either of those, but I had to pick something. Alright, so I guess I'm going there now. Wow.
Mr. Miles Fordham is here to see you, sir.
Very good, Mr. Havelock. Send him up.
Yes, sir.
Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Fordham. I'm Malcolm Harris.
I'm terribly sorry to hear about what's happened, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Fordham. You were very highly recommended by Miss Upton. She said you'd be able to solve this faster and more discreetly than the police. I admit it's a rather unorthodox approach, but we're desperate.
I understand. I'll do all I can to find the kidnapper and bring your son back unharmed.
If you'd like to examine the nursery, it's just through that door to the left. I'll ask you to please try and keep quiet as I just sent my wife to bed. Her nerves are rather shot, you see.
Yes, of course.
Hold on, no, what, who, what life, what wife, I mean, what door?
I know the hand and waistcoat pose is supposed to look stately, but to me it always looks like the person is scratching themselves.
Well, it's neither.
She looks like she's up to something.
It's a sign. Oh, so if she looks like she's up to something, then I don't know what this guy is like. Anyway, French doors?
The Harris family certainly has a nice view from which to look down upon the world. I wonder if they use the balcony to give speeches to the gardeners.
Damn.
I wouldn't get too close, Miles. That vase is probably worth more than your entire building. I'm sure the only location the Harrises care about is wherever they are at any given moment. It's nice to see that tea is still served here even in times of tragedy.
Okay, hold on. I want to talk to the guy first.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Harris.
No doubt you do, but I'm really not in the mood to talk right now. It's been a difficult evening, and I'm not certain I have it in me to answer your questions at the moment.
Fair enough, but I will need to ask you about the incident at some point.
Yes, that's fine. Just not now.
Okay. Let's see, what do we have here? Ah, a broken window right off the bat. Okay.
Some sort of fuzzy animal wearing a waistcoat. Charming.
This animal? I thought that was somebody with a wig on. Anyway.
Steam-powered bottle warmer. Certainly beats having to do it in the fireplace. Or in the case of my parents, over a barrel fire.
Maybe that's a joke.
Look at that. The kid has a toy chest. My sister and I used to have to keep our toys buried in the backyard. Of course, that is because the only toys we had were dead rats. My friend Bunny. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want a giant imaginary rabbit for a friend. The Bear's Picnic. Something about a group of giant human-like bears eating together in the woods is slightly unsettling.
Oh, there is more to this.
Interesting. This fabric looks as though it came from a garment of some kind.
Huh. There's a small emblem sewn onto the side of this piece of fabric. It just says SS.
Somebody's initials, maybe?
Oh, these are not very nice initials, depending on what you might think about, but anyway.
Probably won't be another year or so before the child gets any practical use out of those blocks beyond putting them in his mouth.
So actually wondering if those spell something, but yeah, probably not.
Be careful not to cut yourself, Miles. I don't think the Harris family has ever seen blood that isn't blue. Look, you can see the balcony extends all the way around the side of the manor.
That would make it rather easy for someone to access this window from the outside.
No evidence of what was used to smash the glass, though. It looks rather flimsy. Let's not try sitting on it.
Wasn't there something with this chair, like I had to move it, or...
Oh dear.
Maybe not.
How wonderful. The soporific has started working. Well done, Fordham. Now how are you supposed to... What's the word I'm looking for?
Instigate, interrogate. I just had it on the tip of my tongue.
Perhaps it's time to call it a night.
Perhaps.
To sleep, a chance to dream. To sleep, a chance to dream. So peaceful, so quiet, so comfortable.
Use it. Oh, we can't use it. Oh well. Maybe next time.
No talking now. He'll know it's... All wrong.
Well, Mr. Harris, I believe I've done all I can for right now.
Did you find anything?
Yes, I believe I have some leads I can pursue. But the most important thing to do in cases like this is wait to hear from the kidnappers. I'll be back tomorrow morning to continue my investigation and ask you and your wife some questions once you've had time to calm down a bit. In the meantime, I suggest you stay here and get some sleep. We'll all need it.
Miles, wake up. It's nearly noon.
Ah, so it is.
Why didn't you come to bed when you got home last night?
It was late. I didn't want to disturb you.
So what was so urgent about the case Upton sent you?
I'm trying to track a kidnapped child.
Oh my goodness. That's awful.
Yes, the pressure's on, but I think I should be able to crack it.
Assuming you actually managed to get anything done at the Harris Manor today.
Well, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Also, we've got company. Mrs. Delacroix is having her hair done here today, so please make yourself presentable.
You mean I'm not all ready?
At least do something about your hair. I do have a reputation to maintain after all.
What's wrong with my hair?
Do you really want me to answer that? We'll be here all day. It's admirable just how organized. Yes, the bottle is still in there.
I knew he would have something nice to say. Alright. Let's see what's going on here.
And then he said, "Oh, hello there. I don't believe we've met."
Mrs. Delacroix, this is my husband, Miles. Miles, this is Mrs. Delacroix.
Pleasure to meet you, madam.
Likewise, young man. Pleasure.
Is everything all right, Mrs. Delacroix?
Oh, yes, everything's fine. It's just that, well, you weren't what I was expecting, is all.
Keep your head, Miles. She may be a close-minded idiot, but she's just an old lady.
What were you expecting exactly?
Well...
Now then, Mrs. Delacroix, what was it that you were telling me about Mr. Delacroix and his dogs?
Oh, yes. So, Harold came in and said...
Impressive. She got off pretty easy. I was expecting a repeat of the Parsons incident. You should give Adelaide a kiss on the way out, though, just to make the old bat feel extra uncomfortable.
Addie?
Not right now, Miles. I'm busy. We can talk once I finish with Mrs. Delacroix.
Oh, look at this. The Brewery scandal shocks Gascon society. Madame Laura the Gascon Grand Dame reported to have died 2 weeks ago is in fact alive. Details emerged after a police investigation that Dupree was made to appear dead and almost buried alive. In a shocking turn of events, we discovered that Madame Dupree had been torturing her servants, even going so far as to keep one locked in a hidden room. The servant unfortunately died. Dupree was arrested for manslaughter and will stand trial in the coming months. The suspected assailant, Howard Martin, was released with a full pardon. Public opinion has quickly turned against Dupree, with many claiming that she got what she deserved. A signed confession was given by a guy Jamal, but police have been unable to locate him. Okay. Protests at airship yard continue. The public unrest after the disaster of the HMS Legia shows no sign of slowing as protesters continue to line up outside the gates of the Harris construction airship yard. Currently in the process of building the Legia's sister ship, the HMS Lenore, Harris Construction took out the contract several months before the Legia crashed. Clyde Harris, owner of Harris Construction, said, "While the Legia disaster was the most unfortunate accident, it should not be taken as any indication that steam technology is in any way dangerous. The fact remains that airships are among the safest means of transportation. To hold the construction of the Lenore would symbolize a setback not only to our cultural prosperity but to New Britannia's financial prosperity as well." Harris, long criticized for his apparent ... continued on page 8. Prime Minister's re-election campaign intensifies. Prime Minister Herbert Atwood is making no secret of his desire to be re-elected this year. The leader of the Conservative Party has begun his campaign promising to focus on bettering quality of life in his future by embracing new technological advances and implementing automated workers in factories to reduce overcrowding and reliance on child laborers. Liberal Party leader Hart Leroy has blasted Atwood, saying his plan will only increase the already staggering amount of unemployment in New Britannia and other cities. Leroy has also accused Atwood of purposefully delaying the construction of the Gascoigne-Chumley Bridge. The people will only believe in lack of funds for so long before they start realizing the truth. Atwood and his cronies just want to keep the riffraff out, Leroy said, continued on page 6. Alright, and we have Sabotage blamed for brewery explosion. The explosion at the Haskins Brewery last Thursday has been determined a case of sabotage, according to New Britannia police. Originally thought to have been caused by faulty machinery, the investigation turned up the remnants of a crude explosive device hidden inside one of the tanks. The explosion did not kill anyone, but caused several employees to be injured and the brewery to be shut down for several days. When asked to comment, Chief of Police Reginald Snelling declined naming any suspects in the bombing, but did not rule out the possibility of the Redites being involved. "We have some information at present, but not enough to make any official determinations. Rest assured, those responsible will be brought to justice," said Snelling. Haskins Brewery is best known for producing Bollingworth Ale. Alright. Well, time for me to go, I guess.
Goodbye, dearest.
I look forward to your return, my love.
Alright, let's go back and reinvestigate, I guess.
Remind me, Miles, how is finding some rich people's kidnapped baby going to help us track down the flower shop burglar?
I'm not interested in the burglar right now. I want to help these people and get their child back. Or at the very least, help them find out what happened to him.
Right. Well, you'll need your full wits about you if you plan on doing that.
I do have my full wits about me. I'm perfectly capable of doing this.
Yes, and I'm perfectly capable of being alive. I just choose to be this way because it saves on the laundry expenses. You can't deny it. You need to stop taking the soporific, Miles. Adelaide has been trying to get you to stop for months, and Upton already suspects something is amiss. Not to mention your little episode last night. Trust me, no one is going to want to hire the dullard detective.
Clever. Did you come up with that one all by yourself?
What are you going to do when the cases stop coming in? How long before you get put away in Riverview?
If I do get locked away, it'll be your fault.
Which is exactly why you need to get back to your normal routine so you can find the burglar.
All right, fine. I'll stop. But if you keep me awake at night, so help me.
Don't worry. I'm sure you'll find a way to cope. You were always good at that. Well, I'm glad that's settled then. I knew you'd see things my way eventually.
It's not as though you gave me much of a choice.
In time, you'll thank me. Probably not before the withdrawal hits, though.
Don't make me change my mind on this, Bill.
Mr. Fordham, you're back. Allow me to introduce my wife, Miriam.
Hello.
A pleasure, Mrs. Harris. I wish we could have met under better circumstances, but I assure you I'm doing all I can to find your son.
Thank you, Mr. Fordham.
Mr. Harris, has there been any communication from the kidnapper?
None at all.
Well, I'll have another look around, if you don't mind.
Miles, didn't you notice something a bit strange about the Harrises?
Quite a few things, actually. What are you referring to?
Their son was just kidnapped, yet they're each on their own side of the sitting room. Not comforting each other, not crying together. Nothing.
They're stuck-up rich people. Not exactly the type to show emotion.
Miles, you know I'm the most cynical person there is when it comes to their type. But this isn't normal behavior, even for snobs. This goes deeper than saving face. There's something going on between them. I think you should find out what. Doesn't look very comfortable. Whoever sits here must end up with a sore backside after a while. Look, you can see the back.
That would make it rather easy.
No evidence of what was used. Be careful not to cut yourself.
Okay, so nothing new here. Nothing about this. I actually didn't investigate. From fabric, piece of torn fabric seemingly from a garment has been sewn on it, sewn on with the initials SS. Oh, so there's nothing else. Okay. What about this?
Yeah, the kidnapper left the child's blanket behind. There doesn't appear to be any trace of the silver spoon, though. That's odd. Why is there a loose button in the crib? Yeah, I'm no expert on children, but it seems like it would be dangerous to have around an infant. Ah, if only the flower shop burglar was as easy to find as this clue was. Nice mobile. Custom made, too. There'll be no mistaking what family this child comes from.
Well, actually, there isn't much find here. I was thinking I will. Oh wait, I can inspect
Nice
this
view of the
one.
garden from up here.
Never mind. What about this room? Wait, can I? Oh, okay. Open this maybe?
Harris family. I wonder if.
Nah, we're not inspecting the balcony, I guess.
Fancy. Some poor servant's probably gonna get a flogging for leaving it in here, though. looks like a pile of women's clothes. Must belong to Mrs. Harris. Who in their right mind would need that many drawers?
Let's see what we have here. A very poorly written letter addressed to Mr. Harris.
I don't suppose it's a letter of admiration.
On the contrary, the author seems quite upset.
What do we have here? Mr. Harris, this is your weekly reminder. How much I hate you, because my wife is dead. My wife was a wonderful woman, and you have taken her from me. I hope you suffer as much as I have. Arthur Devens. Okay, so we're definitely asking about this. Anything else?
Nothing else of note in any of the drawers.
Oh well, at least we got to play a rousing game of Search the Rich People's Dresser. Wardrobes are usually always full of wonderfully dark secrets.
I agree, that's why I decided to check this one out.
An empty suitcase. I suppose Mr. Harris must travel every now and then. One thing is for certain, Mr. Harris uses entirely too much starch on his shirts. Yeah, it seems like this is where Mrs. Harris keeps her unmentionables. I like the ones with the frills and the stitched cat. Paperwork and receipts. Nothing particularly interesting here. More lacy underthings. I wonder which Harris they belong to. Mr. Harris's color selection is almost as drab as yours.
Let's see if there's anything of interest in any of the pockets.
So, Mr. Harris is a fan of the ponies, is he? I'm sure that's not causing him any trouble at all. Mr. Harris's color selection is almost as drab as yours.
Okay, so nothing else.
Painting of the city. Probably the only time the Harris family sees any of the other boroughs. Oh, another four-poster. The Harris family certainly makes no secret of their wealth.
Oh, really? I just now noticed this.
There's a handwritten note among the clothes.
Okay. Miriam, baby, I have to see you tonight. It's been far too long. R. Ooh, mysterious. Okay, nothing else?
Nothing else hidden among the clothes. Too bad.
That's what I say. Alright, I have found some things out here.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, of course.
Tell me about yourself.
There isn't much to tell, really. My life has been fairly well publicized in the newspapers.
Let's pretend for a moment that I skip over the society pages.
Well, I'm an investor. My father Clyde runs Harris Construction Company, which I will someday inherit. Any other details about me are fairly trivial nonsense, I think.
Tell me everything you can about the kidnapping.
I don't know much. I was out last night while it happened.
Where had you been previously?
I was out with friends. My wife can verify the time I arrived home.
Wait a minute. I know this attitude all too well. This man is hiding something, most likely from his wife. I doubt his voice is from beyond the grave, so the question is, what's his secret?
I found this bit of torn fabric by the broken window. Do you know anything about it?
Looks like it came from a piece of clothing. Possibly a jacket.
Did the initials SS mean anything to you?
Maybe? I can't really say. You'll have to excuse me, Mr. Fordham. I've got quite a lot on my mind right now. If I can think of anything, I'll be sure to let you know.
I found this letter in your bedroom. What can you tell me about it?
You went through our things?
I'm a private investigator, Mr. Harris. It's part of my job.
Of all the insolence!
You're upset, I know, but do you want me to find your son or don't you?
Yes, of course I do. That letter was sent to me by mistake. It was written to my father. Well, if you can even call that writing.
Have I ever mentioned how much I hate rich people? Because I really hate rich people.
Your father. Doesn't he own the company building the new airship?
Yes, that's right. He's been receiving many letters just like that one since the Lygia disaster. But that Devons fellow in particular has sent one every week, along with a bag of chicken bones and dust.
How peculiar.
Not only that, he leads a daily protest in front of the construction yard where the HMS Lenore is being built, trying to halt production. My God! How did I not see this before?
See what?
Devons! He has a grudge against this family because of what happened with the Lygia. I'd put money on him being involved with the kidnapping somehow, as a form of retaliation.
I'll just have to speak with Mr. Devons and see for myself. How goes the construction of the new airship?
There have been some complications, but nothing we can't handle.
Could you be a bit more specific?
Well, I already told you about the trouble with protesters at the yard, and we're blocked pending Royal Maverick's review of the safety regulations for the prototype etheric diffusion engines. Agitators and red tape aside, we should still be on schedule to have the Lenore finished and in the air by the end of the year. But really, Mr. Fordham, what the deuce does this have to do with finding Charles?
He has a point, you know.
I found this button in your son's crib. Does it look familiar at all?
No, not at all. Do you think the kidnapper might have left it behind?
It's a distinct possibility. Tell me about your son.
Charles is a good boy. Very quiet. Miriam had wanted a child almost from the moment we married. You know how women are when they have their hearts set on something. I saw no need to rush, but...
Nice to know you're not the only one. Hey, Miles.
The first 2 times Miriam was with child, she suffered some unfortunate accidents. She was devastated, as you can imagine. So when Charles finally came along, he turned out to be quite a blessing. I can't imagine what sort of depraved madman would take him from us like this. You must find him, Mr. Fordham.
I intend to, Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, what can you tell me about these?
What? How did you...
Listen, I'm trying to help you and your family. I can't do it if I don't get the entire truth.
Do you think we could discuss this somewhere more private?
I suppose we could.
Good. Let's move to the nursery then.
Shall we continue our conversation, Mr. Harris?
Yes, of course.
Now that your wife is out of earshot, tell me about the kidnapping and what these betting stubs have to do with it.
Right. As I said before, it had already happened when I got home. I had just come from spending the evening at the meadows.
I see. I take it your wife isn't impressed by your hobby?
I promised her weeks ago that I would stop going, but I've had such a good streak lately. The last thing I wanted was to upset her further, yet it would be foolish of me to just give up on something so promising.
Can you think of anyone who might want to do you harm by taking your son?
Several, I'm afraid.
Go on.
I haven't exactly had the best of luck, Mr. Fordham. That's why this latest streak was so important to me. The truth is, I've gambled away most of my money. I've had to take out several loans so Miriam doesn't get suspicious. If she ever found out, it would be over. I can't lose her, Mr. Fordham. I just can't.
Where have I heard this before? You know, things would be so much easier if people just talked to each other.
I've tried doing business above board, but lately I've had to seek other resources.
What do you mean?
I was forced to visit a lending office. The owner was a rather shady Sambo, but I figured he'd be easier to deal with than the usual sheenies that run those type of places.
Can you believe this guy? Maybe we should just leave the kid be. He'd probably be better raised by wolves.
Who was the owner?
Mr. LeFay. I didn't bother to get his first name. His business is an Abattoir Row in Chumley. Horrid place. But I was desperate.
You think this Mr. LeFay may have taken your son as collateral?
Let's just say there isn't much those type of people wouldn't do to put a crown in their pocket.
Those are all the questions I had for now.
All right. If you don't mind, Mr. Fordham, I'm going back to the living room. I don't want Miriam getting suspicious.
You know, the topmost option I get is to tell her about the betting.
I have some questions for you if you're up to answering them, Mrs. Harris.
I'll try my best, Mr. Fordham.
Tell me a bit about yourself, Mrs. Harris.
Mr. Fordham, my son has been kidnapped and is out there alone, terrified and confused. What could I possibly tell you that would make any difference to you finding him?
I suppose you're right, Mrs. Harris. My apologies if I upset you. Tell me about your son.
Charles is our only child. He's such a good boy. Never makes a fuss. Always very sweet. Oh, Charles, you must be so frightened out there without your mother. Oh, please, Mr. Fordham. You have to bring him home.
I'll do my best. Tell me what you know about your son's kidnapping.
Oh, my poor baby. Oh.
Mrs. Harris, I know this is difficult, but I need as much information as you can give me so I can bring your son back.
Yes, you're right. I have to stay strong. For Charles. It happened sometime between 6 and 8 last night. I think. Both my husband and I had gone out. Charles was in the care of his nanny, Mrs. Davis. I arrived home first, around 8:30, and that's when I found this scene in the nursery, as it was.
And what was it you found?
Mrs. Davis, unconscious in her chair, the broken window, and Charles missing from his crib. Malcolm arrived home shortly afterwards, around 9, and then immediately sent our butler, Mr. Havelock, to notify the police. We stayed up waiting for any contact from the kidnappers, but there was nothing.
Your husband mentioned he was out with friends last night. Where were you?
Oh, I was visiting with some of my friends. We gathered at one of their homes for a concert.
It seems hiding something from your spouse is an activity both Harrises partake in.
Can you think of any reason why your son would be a target for kidnapping?
It could be that someone wants our money, or some lunatic who's angry about the new airship. My husband's an investor, and my father-in-law owns the company building it, you see. I just don't know, Mr. Fordham. Frankly, the fact that something like this could even happen is just terrifying.
What can you tell me about Mrs. Davis?
Well, she's worked for us since Charles was born, a little over 6 months ago.
How did you come to employ her?
Malcolm's mother had a friend whose daughter she used to care for. She came highly recommended. We've never had any problems with her. She's always been a dream.
Where is she now?
In her room, I would guess. With Charles missing, there's little for her to do.
Where might I find her room?
There's a small building just around the back of the manor. Hers is the 4th door from the left.
I found this bit of torn fabric by the broken window. Do you know anything about it?
No, I've never seen it before. Do you think it was left by the kidnapper?
Perhaps. Did the initials SS mean anything to you?
No, I can't think of anyone or anything I know with those initials.
found this button in your son's crib. Does it look familiar at all?
No, I don't recognize it. It looks like it came from some cheap coat. Is that what the ruffian who took my baby was wearing?
That's what I'm trying to determine. I found this note in your bedroom. What can you tell me about it?
I've never seen that note before in my life.
Are you absolutely sure?
Mr. Fordham, you mentioned you valued discretion. I ask you to please exercise some now.
Would it be possible to speak about this in private? In another room, perhaps?
Out of the question, Mr. Fordham. I shall not leave this sitting room in the company of another man if my husband is not present.
Yes, I understand. Let's put the subject on hold for now.
What a life these rich people lead. All the money in the world and they're trapped like rats.
That's all for now, Mrs. Harris.
Very well.
Come in!
Good day to you, ma'am. I'm Miles Fordham, a private investigator. I'm looking into the kidnapping of Charles Harris. Are you Mrs. Davis?
I am. Oh, bless the spirits. They've sent someone to help at last.
Another Harris hand-me-down, no doubt. You'd think they would have washed it first. Seems like that boiler's the only thing in here that's less than 10 years old. My mother had a pewter teapot as well. Always made the tea taste funny. It's a spirit reaching out to a very frightened man. Possibly the fakest looking photo I've ever seen. That chest is full of undressed dolls? What the hell is wrong with this old bat? This looks like a mourning portrait of a young woman, probably a relative of Mrs. Davis. Painting of a tower on a Scottish moor. I wish I'd been able to make it over there. Painting of a misty forest with a cemetery in the background. Cheery stuff. Her Majesty Queen Jessica. This was clearly painted a long time ago. Pretty distinguished looking gentleman. Handsome. Good fashion sense. Wonder who he is. These are all books on spiritualism and the occult. Mrs. Davis doesn't seem to have many other hobbies. A boy taking a nap under a tree while his dog runs around in the distance. That brings back some good memories. The Harris family doesn't seem to hold the comfort of their servants in very high regard. I think a bed of nails would be an improvement.
I have some questions for you, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
How long have you worked as a nanny?
Only a few years. I never had to work when I was married. My husband had a lot of money. Unfortunately, he was in great debt, and after the spirits took him back to the ether, I wasn't left with much. So I began working as a nanny to make ends meet. But I consider taking care of children a reward in its own right.
Tell me about the kidnapping of Charles Harris.
Oh dear, may the spirits forgive me. I feel so awful. Charlie was my responsibility, and I failed.
Mrs. Davis, that is beside the point. What's important now is finding him and bringing him home. To do that, I need your full cooperation.
Oh, you're right, Mr. Fordham. I'm sorry. I just need to collect my thoughts, get the negative vibrations out of my mind. Now, what specifically would you like to know?
What time did the kidnapping occur?
I'm not entirely sure. I know I was in the nursery having a cup of tea about 8:30. I remember feeling very drowsy. I must have passed out then because the next thing I knew, I was being woken by Mrs. Harris. To think, whoever took Charlie did it while I was in the room. Oh, may the spirits grant me peace.
Do you happen to take any sort of sleep medications or soporifics?
Oh, dear me, no. Those types of drugs cloud the mind and make it impossible to tune into the ether.
You say that as though it were a bad thing.
I beg your pardon?
Apologies, I spoke out of turn. Can you think of any reason why someone would want to kidnap Charles?
It might have been for money, but last I heard, there was no demand for a ransom. I honestly don't know why this happened, Mr. Fordham. I just hope you find the poor child. He must be scared to death.
Can you think of anyone who would have wanted to take the child?
Well, I'm not one to gossip, but I am quite sensitive to the energy and vibrations that people give off. I get the impression that Mr. and Mrs. Harris aren't very happy in their marriage.
Ah, come on. Anyone could have picked up on that. Anyone except you, that is.
Mr. Harris likes to stay out late and not take his wife with him. I can't remember the last time they went out together. I don't know what he gets up to, but it's possible he may have made some enemies.
I found this piece of torn fabric in the nursery. Does it look familiar to you?
No, it doesn't. I'm sorry.
I found this button in the baby's crib. Do you recognize it?
Why, yes. That's one of Barney's eyes.
Barney?
Charlie's stuffed bear. It's his favorite toy, a gift from my friend Linda.
I didn't find a stuffed bear in the nursery.
Then whoever took the baby must have taken Barney as well. Oh, at least the poor thing has something to comfort him. Bless the spirits.
Who is Linda?
Mrs. Linda Walker. She's a good friend of mine. As I said, she gave me Barney as a gift for Charlie.
Can you tell me anything else about her?
Oh, she's a lovely girl, very much in tune with her spiritual nature. I greatly enjoy my conversations with her.
When was the last time you saw her?
Oh, I don't remember. No, wait. It was at the last Spectre Society meeting on the 19th. That's right.
What is the Spectre Society?
It's a club for spiritualists and amateur investigators of the paranormal. We meet twice a month to socialize and discuss our findings.
I see. Sounds fascinating.
Oh, I don't expect you to share my beliefs, Mr. Fordham.
Oh, I have a bit more experience than you'd think with regards to the spirit world.
You can say that again.
Where exactly do these meetings take place?
At a private residence in Gascon.
May I have the address?
Why, yes, it's 325 Rue Jameau. Are you going to seek spiritual guidance to find Charlie?
Perhaps. You never know what might be worth looking into. Do you have Linda Walker's address?
No, I don't. I never visited her home. I get the feeling she doesn't like having visitors or being home very much. She prefers to meet people elsewhere. I was the same way after my husband died. It was embarrassing for my friends to see me living so differently. But I feel it's not just a matter of pride for dear Linda. I think there are lots of bad memories associated with where she lives. I try to stay away from places like that. They leave a mark on the soul, you know.
That's a lovely portrait. Who is it of?
That is my late husband, Jonathan. He used to attend meetings of the Spectre Society with me, bless him. I tried to get him to be more in tune with the other side, but I think he was just humoring me. He was a good man. Everyone at the society cared for him very much.
I I couldn't help but notice that chest full of dolls in the corner.
Oh, that. Oh, I know it must look a bit strange, but I pick up old and broken dolls so they can be repaired and donated to orphanages. It's my way of giving back to the community and helping poor children who have nothing to play with.
Well, what a kind soul. I wish she would find less creepy ways to express her altruism.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'll be going now, Mrs. Davis.
May the spirits guide your path.
And so we say to Harris and his cronies, no, we will not stand for this.
Well, someone certainly wasn't shy about making their opinion known.
Too many have died to allow this to...
Now that is an impressive piece of machinery. I suddenly remembered a joke. What's the difference between the HMS Lenore and Chief Snelling? One is a greatly disliked and untrustworthy sack of hot air, and the other is the HMS Lenore.
The time has come to reject steam machines.
But the way this gate is set up, I think trespassers should get an award for being able to breach the fortress. Elect Hart Leroy, the man of the people. I think that's preaching to the choir around here. Don't these people have jobs they need to go to?
We won't stand for this injustice.
Pardon me, are you Arthur Devons by any chance?
Yes. Who are you?
Miles Fordham, private investigator. Could I ask you a few questions?
Guess so, yeah.
You seem very dedicated to your cause.
I'll take that as a compliment, Mr. Fordham.
There's quite a lot of people who are against steam tech, aren't there?
Yes, the movement is gaining ground and growing rapidly, I'm pleased to say.
I've heard stories about some more extreme members. Do you know anything about that?
You mean the Redites? Sure, I've heard of them. Even met a few. But if you think I'm telling you anything else beyond that, you're sorely mistaken.
Are you a member of the Redites, Mr. Devons?
No. I prefer more peaceful methods of making my voice heard. Now, if you don't mind, I think we should drop the subject.
Why are you out here protesting?
Because what Harris Construction is doing ain't right. I lost my wife in the Lygia crash, and I'm not the only one, neither. Hundreds of people were affected by that disaster, and now these bastards are making another airship. It's like a slap in the face to everyone who died. I just can't understand it.
What do you hope to accomplish by protesting?
Simple. We want construction of the Lenore stopped, and a full investigation into the Lygia disaster. Not only that, we want compensation for our losses. Royal Maverick took care of all the families of those on board, but the families of the ones in the park didn't get a single copper. It just isn't fair. We aim to make things right. After that, it'll just be a matter of time before people realize that there's no future in steam tech, and they'll call the whole thing off.
Ah, the innocence of the downtrodden. I wish I could be as naive as them. It would have made my life a lot easier.
You must have loved your wife very much.
Are you joking? I loved her more than there are stars in the sky. She was my whole world, Mr. Fordham, the light of my life. It's been nothing but cold and dark since she was killed. You're married, aren't you, Mr. Fordham? I see a ring on your finger.
I am, yes.
Then take my advice. Appreciate every moment you have with her. You never know when she'll be ripped out of your life, leaving you with nothing.
You know, this fellow was actually pretty wise. Maybe we misjudged him.
You recognize this letter, Mr. Devons?
How'd you get that? That wasn't meant for you.
I found it at the home of Mr. Malcolm Harris. He tells me you've been sending quite a few of these to his father.
Me and everyone else would had someone killed by that devil machine. I'm not the only one, you know.
Perhaps not, but he told me you were the most persistent. What have you got against the Harris family?
Family? Don't know nothing about the family. The only one I got a problem with is Clyde Harris, the one who owns this yard. He's just like all those other rich bastards with their heads in the clouds. The man don't care about the dead. He just wants to make as much money as he can. I'm just trying to make him realize how wrong he is.
Mr. Harris told me you send a bag of chicken bones and dust along with your letters. Why is that?
Chicken bones? Dust? Nah, that's not right. I've only sent letters.
Are you certain of that?
Yes, as sure as I'm standing here.
Right. And I'm the queen. I get the feeling this guy will crack if we figure out what the significance of his little gift is.
Do you know anything about the kidnapping of Charles Harris?
Charles Harris? Who's that?
Clyde Harris's grandson.
I didn't even know he had a grandson. I can't believe someone with a grandkid, a family, would want more flying death in the air. How many more people have to die before someone realizes that steam machines are evil? People will kill their own mams for a crown these days.
Does this piece of fabric look familiar to you?
Looks like it came from some fancy jacket, the type you'd expect to see on the snobs in Leon. I could never afford clothes like that in a million years.
Do you recognize this button?
Can't say I do, but it looks handmade. I wonder how long it will be before the poor soul who crafted that button gets booted into the street and replaced with some steam-belching contraption.
Good day to you, Mr. Devins.
You too, Mr. Fordham.
Hello, sir. Welcome to LaFay Lenders. I'm the owner, Chester LaFay. Are you looking to take out a loan?
Not today, I'm afraid. I'm Miles Fordham, a private investigator.
Look, I don't know what you've heard, but I run a clean business here. I don't need any trouble.
And I'm not here to cause any, for the moment.
Just keep your nose where it belongs. We should get along fine.
Do you suppose LaFay turns the heat up to put some pressure on his clients? Must be soothing for LaFay to be able to look at this landscape while he sits at his desk. He actually has a degree in business from the University of New Britannia? What a waste. LaFay with a woman and a small girl. I wouldn't have taken him for a family man. A crew escaping a shipwreck on a violent sea. Not the most comforting painting to look at while waiting for a loan. I shudder to think how many people's financial freedoms are locked away in that cabinet. That's the latest model Computron. They don't come cheap. LaFay must be doing pretty well for himself.
Mr. LaFay, I'd like to ask you some questions.
Fine, but keep it brief.
Tell me a bit about yourself and your business, Mr. LaFay.
What's to tell? I lend people money, they pay me back.
Surely it's not that simple.
Well, of course I charge interest, otherwise I'd never make a profit. I know people don't look upon the service I provide very favorably, but without my help, there would be a lot more unhappiness in the world.
How did you go about starting up this business?
I didn't. My former employer, Mr. Roth, left it to me when he passed.
That was rather good of him.
Yes, well, he didn't have any heirs, and he considered me to be the son he never had. He was fond of my family, too. I try and keep my work and home life as far away from each other as I can, though. There's a lot of things in this line of work that my wife and daughter are better off not knowing about.
Tell me what you know about Malcolm Harris.
Ah, Mr. Harris. Took out a loan about a month ago. Still hasn't paid me back. In fact, he sent along a letter yesterday saying he was having an emergency and needed more time. I probably should have refused to do business with him. As soon as he walked through the door, I could tell his type.
What type is that?
Upper class, bored with his life, trying to escape and doing it through vice. In his case, gambling.
This guy is good. Maybe you can pursue money lending if the whole private investigator thing doesn't work out.
But for some reason, I pitied him and decided to give him the loan anyway. Compassion isn't exactly an asset in this business, you see.
Nothing to worry about in your case, then.
Aside from that, I don't know anything about him. I prefer to keep how much I know about my clients to a minimum. Makes things easier for me.
Exactly how much did Mr. Harris borrow from you?
Is that relevant to your investigation?
It would help to have an idea of exactly how much he owes you, yes.
I don't feel comfortable telling you the exact amount, but I will say it was over 500 crowns.
A considerable sum.
Like I said, I probably shouldn't have done it, but I'll get the money back one way or another.
What's your policy regarding people who don't pay their loans back?
There are a few options. For the first 3 months or so, I'll send them a letter reminding them. After that, I start to threaten them with legal action. You wouldn't believe some of the things people do to avoid paying back their loans. One client went so far as to fake his own death.
Do you ever employ any more unusual methods?
If you're implying that I do anything illegal, Mr. Fordham, you're mistaken. Look, I have a family to consider. I'm not about to go get my hands dirty when there's plenty of legitimate ways to handle the situation.
Are you aware that Malcolm's son, Charles, was kidnapped last night?
I had no idea he even had a son. As I said, I don't ask my clients too many personal questions. Though now you've told me, I suppose that would explain the emergency he mentioned in his letter. Poor guy.
Take a look at this piece of fabric. Does it look familiar to you?
Sure, it looks like it came from a jacket. In fact, yes, it's the same fabric as the jacket I'm wearing.
Would you mind if I took a look at your jacket?
Sure, not a problem. Here.
What the hell am I looking for here? Yes, I see the jacket, so what? Nothing seems to be happening. Maybe I need something more? Yep, I don't know, I didn't see anything. I can't seem to be able to check his pockets as well, which is a shame.
No tears in mine, huh?
Not a one. You clearly take good
Oh, is
care
that
of your
what I was
clothing.
looking for?
I don't mean to discourage you, Mr. Fordham, but I've seen a lot of people with this style of jacket. Hell, even Malcolm has one. I remember he was wearing it when he came in here.
I see. Thank you for the information, Mr. LeFay.
No, really. Okay, well that really looked like the piece of fabric that I have, or that I collected. Okay, well maybe I should go and ask him. There is also this stuff.
Oh, Mr. Fordham. Oh, thank God you're back.
What's going on?
Our butler just brought this in. He found it stuck to the gate outside.
Oh, more stuff? Harris family, we have your son. If you ever want to see him again, you must stop building the new airship. Oh, new. Anyway, we're not joking. Okay, so what? Hold on, what else do I have here? Find out what SS stands for. Find the Walker and the Spectre Society. I still haven't visited her. Oh yeah, the significance of Devin's gift, which I think something I'll find out at the Spectre Society. Hello, welcome. I'm fine, thank you. Happy Christmas Eve. How about you? How are you doing? I have to ask this guy about the jacket. The money. Yeah, maybe I'll investigate some more there. Oh, heard the sound smashing glass. I was left with the impression that she didn't hear it. Yes, about that. And some notes. Let's see about that. No suspects yet.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, of course.
No, very nice, very nice. Well, thank you for being here.
What is your opinion of this ransom note?
It's obvious who sent it, Mr. Fordham. Why are you wasting your time here? Go arrest Mr. Devons!
Those are all the questions I had for now.
All right.
Wait, really? What about the jacket, the fabric, all the stuff? Maybe I have to check the wardrobe.
Nothing else of note in any of the drawers.
Oh, well, at least... You don't suppose... How about that?
It matches the piece of torn fabric perfectly.
So, this means...
It could mean many things. The only thing that's certain is that a piece of this jacket ended up on the floor of the nursery.
Seems like something worth asking Mr. Harris about.
I have some questions for you, Mr. Harris.
Yes, of course.
Mr. Harris, do you recall the torn piece of fabric I found in the nursery?
Yes, what about it?
As it turns out, one of the jackets in your wardrobe has a tear exactly the same size and shape as this one. Would you care to tell me how that happened?
That can't be.
I'm afraid it is, so explain it.
I have no explanation. The truth is, I haven't worn that jacket in weeks. I've no idea how it was torn.
Are you suggesting someone else took your jacket and wore it when the child was taken?
I don't know. Perhaps someone is trying to make it look as though I... But that's absurd. Why would I kidnap my own son?
Why indeed, Mr. Harris?
You really think he kidnapped his own son, Miles? Seems more likely he was set up. But he also doesn't strike me as a terribly good parent. Maybe it would serve him right to be blamed for this. We've done our part. The police can handle the search for the missing baby.
Those are all the questions I had for now.
All right.
Wow, well, I guess that's one way to speedrun this case, at least, if you want to.
I have some questions for you if you're up to answering them, Mrs. Harris.
I'll try my best, Mr. Fordham.
Did you read the ransom note?
No, Malcolm wouldn't let me. He said I was already too upset.
That's all for now, Mrs. Harris.
Very well.
Oh, well, that was quick. Yeah, I have been playing a bunch of adventure games lately. I don't know, I don't really look at genres that much, but I guess you could say that to some extent. I just felt like playing these games because I haven't played them recently, and I have played them before on stream and off stream on Windows, so I also wanted to check if they work on Linux. Kinda like a 2-for-1 type of scenario. Okay, so we'll keep investigating, I guess.
Too dark to tell what's inside. They must enjoy the somber atmosphere.
I should also probably save. I haven't saved in a while.
Yes? May I help you?
Hello, ma'am. My name's Miles Fordham, and I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Are you with the police?
No, I'm a private investigator.
I'm terribly sorry, darling, but I simply don't have the time right now. Perhaps if you come back next week, I'll be able to answer your questions then.
This is the Spectre Society, right? I'm interested in joining.
Ah, yes it is. Welcome, darling. Our membership process is a bit different to most social clubs. We require a sponsor.
Sounds simple enough.
Well, you see, we ask that sponsors be people who have passed on into the spirit world. Once you name your sponsor, I will attempt communication beyond the ether. When they answer, you will be judged and considered for membership.
What are you looking for in a sponsor?
A willingness to communicate from beyond the ether, open-mindedness, a desire for truth. In other words, all the qualities of a member of the Spectre Society. Actually, we've had former members who have passed on act as sponsors before.
I've got a sponsor.
Excellent. What is the name of your sponsor, darling?
Bill Legere is my sponsor.
Seriously, Fordham? I thought you knew better than that.
Bill Legere. Very well, I will attempt to communicate with him.
She can do this all day. It's not gonna work.
I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble communicating. Perhaps you can come back and try again later?
See? Told you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Oh. I don't remember who this Jonathan Davis was. Wasn't
nothing like the smell of horse manure in the baking sun, eh, Miles?
Something different?
Still, it's not as bad as the chum.
They threw at me so many names.
I wouldn't like to have a street lamp right outside my window. Not without a good set of thick curtains, anyway.
Let's see what the old lady has to say.
Hello again, Mr. Fordham.
Oh, it was right.
I'll let you know if I have anything else to ask, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
But is she gonna pretend or something?
I'll be going now, Mrs.
Quote
Davis.
unquote receive.
May the spirits guide your path.
Messages. Oh, he may have been a member as well. I remember talking to her was kinda dangerous. I have to be somewhat careful with this one.
Oh, hello again. How may I help you?
A new sponsor?
I'd like to name a new sponsor.
Yes, of course. Who is your new sponsor?
Jonathan Davis is my sponsor.
You knew Jonathan? He was such a kind man. Yes, I can feel his presence, and it speaks positively of you. Please, come in, Mr. Fordham. I am Angela Maxwell, the founder of the Spectre Society. Welcome. May I offer you some refreshments? Some water or tea, perhaps?
You're very kind, but I'm afraid I must decline right now.
Well, please let me know if you change your mind.
Would you look at this place? It's like a candy store for psychics.
She has all the good stuff. Alright, don't mind me, I'll just look around.
Those are some creepy twin girls. I could see a passing resemblance to Miss Maxwell, actually. There's quite a few members in this group.
Oh boy, that's a lot of stuff. September 19th, meeting number 2, signatures: Angela Maxwell, Michael Brown, Sophia Shaw, Thomas Gilbert, Linda Walker. Ah, this who we were speaking about. Somebody.
There's quite a few members in the.
I cannot read their name. Henrietta Davis. I didn't see the audiences being that important. Comments. Angela, the meeting was wonderful. Cynthia, anyone interested in a used spirit board, please let Thomas know. Thank you. Linda, looking forward to having you over at the manor next week. Come around 8 p.m. and you can meet Charlie. Henrietta, oh, would you look at that? Please ask the spirits to cure my son's illness. Huh. Well, no clue, no nothing here, really? Okay.
I think I've seen one of these before. What does it do?
It's a spirit board. We use it to contact spirits, and they in turn spell out a message with the letters on the board.
Well, I've got a message for Miss Maxwell if she ever tries to use a spirit board around me. That's probably the storage case for the spirit board.
What a fascinating device. Exactly what does it do?
That is an Etherometer. It's designed to pick up vibrations from the ether and translate messages from the spirits.
A great man once said to me, "Bill, you aren't going to get very far in life just staring at balls." He's dead now. But then again, so am I.
Damn. Okay then. So be it. Oh, fun enough.
Ooh, spooky. That ghost between the two people almost manages to look convincing. The plaque says Leonora Pattinson, seer. She looks like someone I would not want to fool around with. It's nice of Miss Maxwell to let people borrow her books, even if they are all just a bunch of nonsense. And coming from me, that's really saying something.
Okay, I don't know enough for now. I was trying to stand still, but he decided to move when I was inspecting some of these. He sometimes does these nice animations when you're standing still, but oh well. Maybe in due time he will do some of these.
I never much cared for all that mystic stuff. Why should your life be dictated by a bunch of cards?
Could I ask you about some things, Miss Maxwell?
Certainly, darling.
What made you decide to start up this club?
I began communing with the spirits at a very early age. My twin sister, Rachel, died after falling into an icy pond when we were 8 years old.
I'm very sorry, Miss Maxwell.
Oh, I appreciate your sympathy, darling, but don't feel too bad. Rachel began speaking to me shortly after that. She has served as my spirit guide ever since.
Spirit guide? You mean you still speak with her?
Oh, yes. Every day. In fact, I was just speaking with her before you arrived. As I grew older, I realized there were others in the world who were also able to communicate with spirits, and those who had an interest in what lies beyond the ether. And so, once I moved to New Britannia, I decided to start up this club so we could gather and share our experiences.
Do you suppose she can hear what I'm saying? Hey, Angela, try a bit less eyeshadow, would you? You look like a purple raccoon. Nothing. Clearly a fraud. Ah, well.
I was wondering,
Yes?
when you communicate with the spirits, are you able to stop?
If I wish them to leave me, yes. I bid them farewell, and they usually depart back into the ether.
What about the more persistent ones?
You do remember I'm right here, don't you?
Well, just between you and me. Those spirits are best dealt with by having the other kind of spirits. Quiets them right down.
I prefer soporific myself.
Oh? You hear the voices of the spirits as well, Mr. Fordham. But of course, now the reason for your visit to the Spectre Society is obvious. Do you see? All our paths eventually become clear. I'm glad yours has brought you here.
Oh, wonderful. Now she started rhyming. Don't get any funny ideas about telling her about me. She may be a lunatic, but that's no reason to expose yourself as one too.
Yeah, I think I think I agree, or at least for now. I don't know. I'll consider it, but the other person, I don't know what you mean. Like several lines past.
What can you tell me about the Spectre Society?
Where to begin? I formed this club 2 years ago, right after I moved to New Britannia. During our meetings, we discuss our experiences with paranormal phenomena and organize investigations.
What sort of investigations?
We look into places all around the city which have been reported as haunted. New Britannia is teeming with the spirits of those killed during the French and British takeovers of the city. Not only that, but there is a prevalence of mystic religious practices here in Gascon, brought over by immigrants from the Antilles.
Fascinating.
There are plenty of books on the subject over there in the bookcase, if you're interested in learning more.
Do you know anything about the kidnapping of Charles Harris?
I'm afraid I haven't heard anything about any kidnappings, darling. If you wish, I can commune with the spirits and see if I can help locate your missing person.
That won't be necessary, Miss Maxwell, though I appreciate the offer. I spoke with Henrietta Davis, and she mentioned one of your other members, Linda Walker. Can you tell me anything about her?
Ah, Linda. Poor dear. Of all our members, she is the one I feel for the most.
Why is that?
She's had a tragic life, but I believe the Spectre Society has helped her greatly. Not only has she made a good friend in Henrietta, she's also dealt with her grief in a positive way. She has devoured my collection of books, educated herself on many subjects. I would say she's become an expert on clairvoyance and metempsychosis. It's always nice to know that the club can help those who have suffered.
Do you see her often?
Yes, she comes by about once or twice a week.
What can you tell me about Linda and Henrietta's friendship?
It's so lovely to see them together at the meetings. They're practically inseparable. It's quite sweet. They often leave messages for each other in the guest book. When Linda found out that Henrietta was taking care of an infant, she even gave her a toy bear for the child. I remember Linda lighting up with excitement when she asked about him. She really loves children. It's such a terrible shame about... But Please, let's discuss something more pleasant, shall we, darling?
What's this tragic story about Linda you mentioned?
Oh, dear. I probably shouldn't say.
Miss Maxwell, I'm going to be frank. I'm investigating a kidnapping, and Mrs. Walker is a person of interest. I need to know as much about her as possible to help me solve this case. Do I make myself clear?
Well, if it will help, Linda was married to a man named Thomas. Together, they had a son named Alexander. Thomas revealed himself to be a terribly cruel man. When he gave himself over to the drink, he would fly into rages and beat both Linda and the boy. One day, she came home to find both her son and husband dead.
My God, what happened?
The police ruled it a murder-suicide. Poisoning, apparently. Linda has been trying to make contact with Alexander's spirit for the past year or so, but has had no luck. It really is a terrible tragedy.
Do you know Linda Walker's address?
I'm afraid not, darling. Linda has always been somewhat private, and that's not something I consider to be crucial information.
Do you know any way I can find her?
You could always come back for our next meeting. It will be the first Thursday of next month.
By then, we'll have completely lost track of Charles. There has to be another way of finding Linda.
I'm sorry, what was it you said? Madam Psy, what?
Metempsychosis, darling. It's a philosophical term which comes from ancient Greece. It refers to the transmigration of the soul after death.
Is that anything like reincarnation?
Essentially, yes. There's a book on the subject over in the bookcase, which can tell you far more than I possibly could.
Thank you for the information. It was very enlightening.
It was my pleasure, darling.
Yeah, okay, so we got something here in this tragic past. Husband and son both died recently, the result of a murder or suicide. Husband apparently poisoned himself and the boy, or got poisoned. Who knows? Okay, I would definitely need to look at some of those books. This is getting interesting indeed. Yeah, metempsychosis. Oh boy, that's quite the light reading. Let's see, metempsychosis from the Greek meta expressing change in the psyche, so refers to the philosophical idea of transmigration of the soul at the time of death. That is to say, the reincarnation of the soul in another human or animal. This is thought to have originated with Orpheus in the 6th century BC. Orpheus proclaimed that the body and soul were two separate entities chained together in life. Upon death, the bond was dissolved and the divine soul was freed from its corporeal prison. However, until the soul attained absolute purity, it was fated to continue the cycle of reincarnation. Deeds done in life would affect the soul's purity and determine how much longer its spiritual journey would go on before ascending to heaven. The theory postulates that the soul of a human or animal will be transferred to another living being. Some characteristics or personality traits of the soul are usually preserved throughout reincarnations, for example, eye color or an affinity towards a particular person or item. There is some debate regarding the exact nature of the transfer of souls, but it is generally accepted that the human soul will transfer to an animal which is already alive. A soul belonging to an animal or human transferred to a human will enter a body at birth and not one which is already alive. Therefore, it can be useful to confirm a suspected reincarnation if the date of death and birth of the old and new bodies is the same. One popular believed case of metempsychosis comes from medieval Germany, where two feuding families both met their ends. The last of one line was suspected of setting the other stable on fire, during which the other perished. Soon after, a white horse took up residence at the surviving family's estate. While out riding, the estate caught fire and the horse and rider ran to the flames, killing both. It is said that the horse was the reincarnation of the murdered heir, come back to seek revenge on his killer. Okay, interesting. That could be helpful, I guess. I think there was a book here about the chicken and the bones, and I also did not get a chance to ask her about that stuff. Oh well, they even mentioned the cash crackers here and all this good stuff. They're not letting back in this game, alright. They're not holding back. Maybe I can try and check real quick. Actually, what was it exactly? Wait, so I don't have that? That's weird. I thought it was somewhere here in the clues section. So we don't care about that anymore? Okay, I'll keep looking. Oh, wasn't it this? Okay,
Chicken bones and dust for bad luck in business, huh? That sounds awfully familiar.
Oh, there it is, he said it, but I tried to skip through, scan a little bit faster and I didn't see it. And the religious practice commonly known as voodoo originated in Africa, but have seen a migration in recent years. First moving to the West Indies, it spread after a revolt in Santo Domingo, caused a wave of escaped and freed slaves to migrate to Vespuccia. For years, the religion was practiced in secret, but emerged as a more widely accepted faith after the abolition of slavery in 1840. The largest concentration of practitioners of voodoo is the city of New Britannia, particularly the borough of Gascogne. Though it is as its root an African religion, voodoo has evolved in New Britannia, heavily influenced by Catholicism. New Britannia voodoo has adopted several Catholic saints and turned it into a hybrid religion unique to the city. One key factor which sets voodoo apart is the use of charms or amulets of various functions and purposes commonly known as gree-gree. Okay, I bet that's how it's gonna be read. Yes, I suppose it comes from French. Or maybe we can nicely butcher it up as Grace. Which also originated in Africa, used mainly as the means to warn off evil spirits and bad luck. However, they have taken a darker connotation in the voodoo practices of New Britannia and can also be used to bring misfortune and suffering. The basic grey is always contained in a leather pouch. The ingredients vary depending on the desired effects. For instance, a grey designed to bring a gambler luck would contain chamois, I guess, red flannel, a shark's tooth, and dove's blood. Yeah, I read that, but it was, what was it, chicken bones and there's something. It's not the exact same thing. That's what I mean. Brewery for sending away an enemy contains items like gunpowder or red pepper. Usually a person's name is written on paper and included in the bag. To bring someone bad luck in business, the brewery will contain chicken bones. Oh, there we go. Chicken bones and graveyard dust. I didn't read this. Okay, maybe now I can ask her about this. Also, this book kind of grabs my attention, just the way it's standing there. What is this? What was that? A mysteries of spontaneous combustion. Spontaneous human combustion is a highly controversial subject, but remains popular among scholars and aficionados of the occult and unexplained. The term refers to death from a fire originating without any apparent source of external ignition. The fire is believed to start within the body of the victim. The 1823 book Medical Jurisprudence states the commonalities in recorded cases of spontaneous human combustion, including the following characteristics. The victims are chronic alcoholics. They're usually elderly females. The hands and feet usually fall off. The fire has caused very little damage to things around the body. A residue of greasy and fetid ashes left behind. Most physicians and investigators strongly believe the spontaneous human combustion is a product of alcoholism. An illustration of two men finding a victim of spontaneous human combustion. Okay. Oh, wasn't there something like one of the other cases, or was it the same case? This may be relevant later. Let me ask her now about...
Could I ask you about some things, Miss Maxwell?
Oh, wait.
Certainly, darling.
Oh, I can only tell about Bill.
Thank you for the information. It was very enlightening.
It was my pleasure, darling.
Yeah, I don't think... I don't know, maybe I have to.
There's quite a few members in this group.
I'll pass. For now, I was looking at this. Looking forward to having you over at the manor next week. Come around 8 PM and you can meet Charlie. Or maybe I should speak to Henrietta then.
I'll be going now.
And the obvious
May the spirits guide you to that which you seek.
thing to do, I guess.
Hello again, Mr. Fordham.
I have some questions for you, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
Mrs. Davis, have you ever had Linda visit you at the Harris Manor?
Oh, no, of course not.
Then would you care to explain your note to her in the Spectre Society guest book?
Please, Mr. Fordham, I didn't mean to lie to you. It's just that it gets so lonely by myself in the house at night. So every now and then, I invite Linda to come over for tea and some company.
I see. And when was the last time this happened?
2 nights ago? Please don't tell Mr. and Mrs. Harris, Mr. Fordham. If they found out what I was doing, they'd have me dismissed without a reference.
I won't, but I'd very much like to speak with Mrs. Walker. Do you have any idea where I can find her?
All I know is that she works as a seamstress at a shop in Lyon, but I don't know the name. I'm sorry, I can't be of any more help than that.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'll be going now, Mrs. Davis.
May the spirits guide your path.
All the spirits are guiding my path. Well, maybe I can speak with Upton. She may know something.
The election seems to be getting intense earlier than normal this time.
That's for sure. Leroy really wants to be Prime Minister.
What do you think of him?
I think he's like every other politician, full of lies and false promises. He claims to be a man of the people, but I'll believe it when I see him step into a factory like the rest of us.
That's a good point, actually.
Can we talk?
Go on, I'm listening.
How's work going?
Hectic as usual. Crime in this city seems to be getting worse and worse every day.
I suppose that's the price of progress.
God help us if they ever actually discover that ethericity stuff then. Things between you and Adelaide getting any better?
I'm really not sure. They haven't gotten worse, but things haven't been the same between us since Bill died.
Well, you need to figure things out, or everything is just going to explode in your face one of these days.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, Upton.
I'm merely speaking from experience. If I'd seen the warning signs of Harold sooner, it would have saved me quite the headache. At least your marriage seems like it's still worth saving.
What's the other case you mentioned? The one you said was a higher priority.
Well, it seems we might have a mass murderer on our hands.
You don't say.
That's right. I didn't say because I shouldn't say. But so far, we've had 3 murders with a very similar MO in the past 2 months. Snelling is trying his hardest to keep it under wraps since the newspapers already caught wind of the first 2.
I don't envy the department there. I'm happy to stick with the missing persons and domestic disputes. Can we go over my current case?
Of course. What have you got?
I found this torn piece of fabric at the crime scene. It's got an emblem with some initials on it.
I recognize that emblem. It's from Solomon Stitching, a little tailor shop in Lyon. My ex-husband had several jackets from there.
Sorry to dredge up old memories, but do you remember where they're located?
I believe it's on the corner of Bonneville Street and Surratt Avenue.
Fantastic. You're helpful as always, Upton. I found this button at the crime scene. The child's nanny identified it as the eye of his stuffed bear.
Did you find the bear at the scene?
No, the kidnapper must have taken it as well.
Interesting.
Either the kidnapper is very compassionate, or it's someone who knew the child. I spoke with Henrietta Davis, the Harris family nanny.
A sensible place to start. What did she have to say?
She claims to have been unconscious when the kidnapping took place.
She must be an extremely heavy sleeper.
I don't believe so. The way she described it made it sound like she was drugged.
Interesting. Definitely worth looking into, I'd say.
Have you ever heard of the Spectre Society?
I think so. They're some sort of ghost hunting club, aren't they?
A spiritualist group, yes.
Don't tell me this case has taken a turn for the supernatural.
Not exactly. It's just come up as a potential lead. Are you familiar with the term metempsychosis?
No, what is it?
Apparently some mystics and philosophers maintain that it's a process whereby human and animal souls are transferred to new bodies upon death.
Fascinating. Some people have such queer ideas. What's that got to do with the kidnapping, though?
I'm not exactly sure yet.
Sometimes I'm jealous of all the odd things you detectives get to look into.
That's enough about the case for now.
Okay.
That's it, I think.
Then you'd better get back to it.
Yep, I was correct. I also haven't spoken to this guy since the second letter.
Clyde Harris has no concern for the people who died aboard the Lygia or their families.
Mr. Devons?
Yes?
Do you practice voodoo, Mr. Devons?
What?
The chicken bones and dust you send along with your letters. It's a voodoo spell meant to cause bad luck in business. Quite a convenient solution, wouldn't you say?
I don't know what you're on about.
Come now, Mr. Devons. I'd appreciate it if you didn't think I was stupid.
All right, fine. I went to go see one of them magic women in Gascon. She told me about the spell and what I needed to do. I don't believe in the stuff, but I thought maybe if I used it, I could scare Harris enough to get him to stop making the new airship.
Well, I don't mean to be one to put a damper on your amateur witchcraft, but it doesn't seem to be doing you much good.
No, his grandson got kidnapped. That's not something I'd call lucky.
Mr. Devons, can you tell me about this note?
I've never seen that before in my life.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely. It's as I told you. I had nothing to do with that boy's kidnapping. I didn't even know he existed until you told me, remember?
Yeah. And that note conveniently showed up right after you had that conversation. Let him stew in his own lines. His unique way of spelling is all the evidence we need to tie him to the note.
Very well, Mr. Devons. Forget I asked. Good day to you, Mr. Devons.
You too, Mr. Fordham.
This Arthur Devons Joker is bad news. Not only is he making threats to the Harris family, he also has the nerve to send a ransom note. We have enough evidence to pin the crime on him, I think. The police can deal with the headache of actually finding the baby.
Good day to you, sir. Welcome to Solomon Stitching. I'm Jonah Solomon. Please let me know if I can help you with anything.
Isaac Samuels, the Prime Minister who freed the slaves. They say even his enemies wept on the day he died. I sure hope I get to meet him someday. This guy has been in business forever. It's quite the selection, but I doubt the typical clientele of this place buys off the rack. That coat is so dull. I always prefer the ones with a bit more color. The design of that coat looks awfully familiar.
Oh, there we go. He did it. He did one of his animations.
That cloth will be a garment soon. A vest, by the looks of it. Or maybe I'm completely wrong, and it's a treasure map.
Most deaf. Yeah, this looks interesting, but I cannot examine it for some reason.
My grandmother had one like that. I think it was meant to be relaxing, but it always felt like my time was running out. Now that it has, well, it actually is relaxing. Go figure. Judging from the position and the lock, this is likely where Mr. Solomon keeps his money. Impressive collection of pattern books. I wish I'd known about this guy when I was alive. I'd have asked him to make me a suit for my funeral.
Mr. Solomon?
Yes, sir. How may I be of service? Oh, let me guess. You're looking to replace that old coat. It looks like it's got quite a few stories it could tell me.
You should listen to the man, Miles. He clearly knows what he's talking about.
Not today, I'm afraid. There's still a few more stories it has left to tell. Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions.
Questions? Very well, but if they aren't about tailoring, I don't know how much help I'll be.
How did you get into this business, Mr. Solomon?
I was always good with a needle and thread. When I was a boy in Poland, I would help my mother with her sewing. Then, during the war with Russia, I fixed uniforms and stitched up wounds. Not long after that, I moved to Vespuccia, settled here in New Britannia. My first shop was in the Chum, but thankfully I was very successful and was able to move to Lyon. I won't lie to you, this location is much, much nicer. It's refreshing to not have to step over drunken hobos when I open and close the shop.
Oh, but that's part of the charm of owning a business in the Chum.
Not much else to say beyond that. My business is my life.
You seem very dedicated to your craft.
That's right. You won't see any of that newfangled steam-powered nonsense in here. Everything is done by hand and with care. I use only the finest quality materials and stitch every thread myself. And that's the way it's gonna stay as long as I'm around. It's worked for 45 years. There's no reason to change as far as I'm concerned.
This is a nice shop you have. I never even knew it existed.
Well, better late than never, I always say. Life has a funny way of always taking us where we need to go in the end.
True. Although I think it's easy to miss out on things from time to time.
Oh, of course. It's easy to overlook the details, but in the grand scheme of things, you'll end up where you need to be. And in this case, you ended up here. So, please, feel free to take a look around. Let me know if you find anything you like.
I found this piece of torn fabric with your emblem on it. Can you tell me anything about it?
Yes. Brown, wool, houndstooth. This is from one of the more popular jackets I sell.
And here I thought my ability to name ales within 5 seconds of tasting them was good. This fella has me beat.
Do you have any of them in stock currently?
Well, sure. I've got one on the display dummy over there.
Is there any way you can tell me who you've sold them to?
Ooh, I don't think so. I've sold at least 20 in the past month. As I said, it's a very popular style.
Is there anything you can tell me about this button?
Looks like it's made of wood. Not very well crafted either. Definitely not from one of my products.
Do you by chance employ a seamstress named Linda Walker?
I do, yes.
Is she here?
No, she has the day off today, but she'll be in tomorrow.
Would it be possible to have her address?
Begging your pardon, but why should I give it to you?
I'm a private investigator, and it's crucial to this case.
Well, as I said, she'll be here tomorrow. You can ask her then.
It really is a matter of some urgency.
I'm sure it can wait a day. But if it were really that urgent, I would think the police would be involved, not a private investigator. I'm not obligated to tell you anything, so please, let's move on before I lose my patience.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it will be easy to fool him. What was the other one? Oh, her brother? Yeah, I don't think so. Although it's an option. I can press it again.
I'll be taking my leave of you now, Mr. Solomon.
Very good.
So I have to be somewhat careful with this guy too.
Come to think of it,
Can I
have seen
look at
plenty of
this
people wearing
now?
that design. No tears in this one, though.
I'll have to. Yeah, I really need to speak to her. Oh well, I'm gonna leave for now. This seems a little bit like I'm gonna get kicked out and not be able to progress further afterwards. Let's see if the wife can help me out.
Hello, dearest. I have returned.
Welcome home.
Addie?
What do you need, dear?
How are things going with you?
I'm a bit worried about some rumors I've been hearing.
Oh?
They're saying it won't be long before automated hairdressing devices are available to the public. Once that happens, it's going to be tough for me to keep getting jobs.
Automated hairdressing devices? How would those even work? Do they read your mind?
Doubtful. More than likely they'll have some kind of settings or just give everyone the same type of hairstyle.
I wouldn't worry too much, Addie. You're the best hairdresser in town. I doubt people will place their trust in some contraption over you.
You underestimate my clientele, Miles. They're mostly all rich socialites whose hobbies are buying the most expensive and modern things just to outdo their peers. They'll be sending their servants to line up for days before the things are released.
Perhaps, but they'll come running back to you once the machines stop working. You'll see.
I certainly hope so.
You weren't kidding about business picking up. You're averaging what, about 3 appointments per day?
More like 5. I told you, debutante ball season's busy.
Doesn't it get tiresome?
Not really. You'd be surprised at the sort of gossip I hear from my clients. I don't know what it is, but they just open up to me and tell me all kinds of personal things. You sure you don't want me to give you a trim?
I'm fine for now, dear. Thank you. I'd forgotten how good you are at écarté. You absolutely destroyed me the other night.
As I recall, you used to hold your own pretty well.
We should have another match soon. That way I can hone my skills.
Yes, we should. As long as you can concentrate, I'm sure you'll get as good as you used to be.
I can't believe the nerve of that narrow-minded old cow.
Who, Mrs. Delacroix? She's actually one of my nicest clients.
I don't know how you can tolerate her. If I were you, I'd strike her off my list.
If I did that for every one of my clients who thought the same as her, I'd be out of a job. That's just the way it is.
Maybe so, but it doesn't make it any less infuriating. Have you ever heard of a group called the Spectre Society?
I think I had a client once who mentioned it. They're some kind of spiritualist group, right?
So it would seem.
I don't really know anything else about them, sorry.
I'll let you get back to your book.
Okay then, so much
I'll
for
see you
the
later, Adam.
help.
Give my regards to Constance.
Oh, you two know each other? Well, I'm just gonna run around, see what I can dig up.
Can we talk?
Go on, I'm listening.
That's not
That's
it.
it, I think.
Then
Let's see, what does it say here? Don't often accuse Malcolm. Nope. Track down Linda. Investigate Solomon stitching. Yeah, I may have to press the issue there. That's the thing though, like, I don't know, did she even have a brother or something?
Hello again, Mr. Fordham.
I'll let you know if I have anything else to ask, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
I'll be going now, Mrs. Davis.
May the spirits guide your path.
I'll let you know if I have any more questions, Mr. Harris. Sit tight, Mrs. Harris. I may have more questions for you later.
Yeah, nothing new here. Supposing she sat here on this chair, is like right next to it. Yeah. Okay, do I even have anything new to say to this guy? Let's see.
I don't think he's gonna be of much help right now.
Yep. Thought so.
Welcome back, Mr. Fordham.
Oh wait. Maybe I have to check every single book. Secrets of the Tarot. The Magician. The central figure depicts someone with one hand pointed to the sky while the other hand points to the ground, as if to say as above so below. This is a rather complicated phrase, but its summarization is that Earth reflects heaven, the other world reflects within, the microcosm reflects the macrocosm, Earth reflects God. It can also be interpreted here that the Magician symbolizes the ability to act as a go-between between the world above and the contemporary human world. On the table, the Magician also wields all the suits of the tarot. They symbolize the four elements being connected by this Magician, the four elements being earth, water, air, and fire. The infinity sign on his head indicates the infinite possibilities of creation with the will. The Magician is the representation of pure willpower. With the power of the elements and the suits, he takes the potential innate in the full and molds it into being with the power of desire. He is the connecting force between heaven and earth, for he understands the meaning behind the words as above so below. That mind and world are only reflections of one another. Remember that you are powerful, create your inner world, and the outer will follow. Okay. Not sure, but these may not be that relevant. The lovers. In the lovers card, the man and the woman in the image are being protected and blessed by an angel above. The angel depicted here is Raphael, the angel of air, who is of the same element of the zodiac sign that governs this card, Gemini. Air is associated with mental activity and communication in particular, which is the foundation for healthy relationships. His blessing seems to give this card a sense of balance and harmony, the symbolization of union in a grand and cosmic sense between two opposing forces. The primary meaning within the lovers is harmony, attractiveness, and perfection in a relationship. The trust and the unity that the lovers have gives each of them confidence and strength, empowering the other. The bond that they have created is very strong, and it can indicate that the two are joined in marriage and other close and intimate relationships. Another meaning behind the lover's card is the concept of choice, a choice between things that are opposing and mutually exclusive. This could be a dilemma that you need to think about carefully and make the best decision for your situation. Okay. I guess Bill would have said something after I opened all these. Oh wait, I don't think I checked this one out. Communication with the spirit realm is most often achieved via the help of a medium. A fairly common practice employed to communicate with the dead is the seance, in which the medium tries to establish contact with the dead in the presence of a small to medium-sized group of people. The general opinion is that a greater amount of energy provided by living beings will establish a stronger connection to the spirit world. A medium is someone who can speak to the dead. Two types exist: mental and physical. The mental medium tunes into the spirit world and relays messages by sensing or seeing spirits. The physical medium is able to produce manifestations of spirits, apparitions, knocks, bell rings, etc. by using ectoplasm created by their bodies and the bodies of seance attendees. No one is exactly sure how the ability of mediumship is attained. Some claim to have it from birth, while others attribute it to near death or other traumatic experiences. Whether a medium can see spirits or only hear them depends greatly on their level of skill, as well as their natural attunement to the spirit realm. Some mediums claim that an increase of this attunement is possible through practice and study, while others insist that it cannot be taught and is something that is either possessed or not. Yeah, I don't know about this one as well, or at least not for this case.
I think I've seen one of these before. What does it do?
It's a spirit board.
Well, I've got a mess.
If there was something interesting there, I guess it will be added to my book. Let's
Did
see
I ask you about some
if she
things,
has
Miss
something
Maxwell?
to say.
Certainly, darling.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I can press the issue here.
Thank you for the information. It was very
Alright.
enlightening.
Well, I'm
was
gonna
my pleasure, darling.
try my luck with the guy. Hold on, maybe I can find
quite a few members.
something out here. No
I'll be going now.
chance.
May the spirits guide you to that which you seek.
Okay, well, I've checked pretty much everything now.
Welcome back. Let me know if I can help you
It's
with anything.
possible that I missed something while inspecting, although I don't think so. That's the case. I guess I'll save before I attempt something, because I wanna see how this goes till the end.
I've got some more questions for you.
All right, I'll do my best to answer them.
Please, Mr. Solomon, it's extremely important that I get Mrs. Walker's address.
So you said, but why should I?
Yeah, I still don't like any of these answers. Like, her son and her schoolmates, they have something to return. Well, we can return it tomorrow, or whenever she comes back to work. She's my sister and we've lost touch. Well, you can reunite tomorrow again. Same stuff. Alright, I guess I'm going in for the kill.
She's my sister, and we've lost touch.
I thought you said you were a private investigator.
Well, yes, but
I don't appreciate it when people try to make a fool of me, Mr. Fordham. Because I'm a patient man, I'll let this pass for now. But if you try and pull one over on me again, I'll be forced to remove you from my store. Understood?
Yes, sir.
You really need to work on your social skills, Miles.
Nice.
I'll be taking my leave of you now, Mr. Solomon.
Okay then. Maybe I have missed something. But what? I didn't even get a chance to ask him about this, although maybe it's not that important. Yeah, he owns one. A ton of fabric. Perfectly matched. His jacket as well. Burner found the scene. Oh yeah, she didn't want to speak about this. I wonder how can I speak to her privately? Maybe she'll be willing to tell me something. I don't know. Seemingly I cannot do too much here. But maybe go and check the jacket again. What for though? What's here? I have no idea. How can I possibly separate them or something? There's this case as well. Oh wait,
I suppose Mr. Harris must travel every now and then. Yeah, it seems like this is where Mrs. Harris keeps her unmentionables. Paperwork and receipts. Nothing. More lacy underthings. Mr. Harris's color selection is almost... Mr. Harris's...
Oh, I didn't even get the chance to look at it again.
One thing is
Okay.
for certain.
Fine.
Nothing else hidden among the clothes. Too bad.
Nothing else of note in any of the drawers.
Oh well, at least we got to play a rousing game of search the rich people's dresser. Fancy. Some poor servant's probably gonna get a flogging for leaving it in here, though.
They did receive this letter after I came here, but it wasn't hidden from what I understand. So, re-examining the place is probably not gonna be too fruitful.
Yeah, the kidnapper left...
Can we fiddle with the window? Kinda like, you know,
Look,
open it and
That would make
stuff?
it rather easy for someone to access this window from the outside.
No evidence.
I was wondering if there wasn't
It looks rather flimsy. Let's not try sitting on it.
something with the chair. No.
Be careful not to cut your...
I also have no idea who can help me there.
I'll let you know if I have any more questions, Mr. Harris.
Yep, we already heard that one. Oh wait. Fiddle with this again?
I'm sure the only location...
Nope, nothing. Well, I don't know.
Hello again, Mr.
I'll let you know if I have anything else.
All right.
I feel like
Another Harris hand.
she told me something like, oh, she probably
I'll be going
didn't
now,
want
Mrs.
to
Davis.
visit
May the
her
spirit-
at her home. Or was it about somebody else? I forgot. Is the just a guide in the office. Not too much to work with, really.
Ah, home at last.
It's good to have you back.
Yeah, I was really hoping the wife would be able to help me out somehow.
Wouldn't you say it's time for a change of clothes, Miles? You've been wearing that coat for who knows how long.
So? Addie gave it to me. Besides, it gives me character.
Right. Brooding detective in a long black coat. That's never been seen before.
Anything
What are you talking
interesting
about,
I
Bill?
have here?
Never mind. Remember, before you started taking that medicine, and you could actually read a... You were a lot more fun to talk to. That's a fun little apparatus Adelaide got you. Very soothing.
Watching it spin long enough puts me right to sleep.
I'd say that's really more the soporifics doing. Let her read in peace for now. Ah, the Havisham case. It's nice to have... Adelaide's father certainly... Imagine being the...
Have a lovely day, Addie.
Give my regards to Constance.
Welcome back, Mr. Ford.
And then again, I can access these books.
What a ridiculous contraption. People will do anything to make a quick crown. A great man once said to me, Bill, you aren't gonna get very far in life, just he's dead now. I never much cared for all that mystic
Oh,
stuff.
can I maybe
Why should your life be dictated by a bunch of cards?
quest the reading or something? Doesn't seem
I think
like
I've
it.
seen one of these before.
It's a...
Well...
Yes, I'll quickly scan some of these. I already read this one. How do you know they're missing though? Maybe she has only this many? Then again, it doesn't let me, it only lets me tell her about Bill, which I'm not sure if I wanna do. What the hell is this? I don't know. It could be.
It's nice of Miss Maxwell to let people borrow her books, even if they are all just a bunch of nonsense. And coming from me, that's really saying something.
I guess, yeah, borrowing books, but I already read that before and I didn't get the chance to ask about it. And is that, what is this? Medium's gateways to the spirit realm is. Like, I think I need to get some more information about Linda to convince the guy to give me her address. But I don't see how. Yeah, I was thinking about this, but it would have been added to the case book.
There's
I would
quite a
have
few
been
members in this
able
group.
to ask them about that stuff, but
There's quite a few.
I can't. That's the thing. Also, I don't think they mentioned Linda's husband's name. Or wasn't
quite a
it
few-
the same? I'm interested in a used spirit board. Please let Thomas know. Thank you.
There's quite a few.
Nope. I mean, I'll try it again, but... Oh, this is different. What's Stephen Thomas? I don't know. Maybe they didn't mention his name.
Could I ask you about some things, Miss Maxwell?
Certainly, darling.
Yep, it's just about Bill. Well, maybe that's what I have to do. I doubt it, but
Thank you for the information. It was very
I'll try.
enlightening.
It was my
I'll
pleasure,
try.
darling.
I'll save here. kind of like a point of no return, you know. I wouldn't normally do this, but let's see what happens. No, I couldn't ask her about the books at all. Or at least if I can, I haven't been able to yet. Talk to Bill? No. I cannot talk to Bill. He just speaks whenever he feels like it. Like, if I need some help when I'm stuck, I believe I either have to go to Upton, which I already did, or I have to go to his wife, which I also did. So yeah.
Could I ask you about something?
Sir.
I don't hear the voices of all spirits, just one.
Miles, what are you doing?
Ah, you have a spirit guide. Please tell me more, darling.
I wouldn't call him a spirit guide so much as a spirit nag.
This is a very, very bad idea.
Do you know who this spirit is?
Yes, it's my former detective partner, Bill. I shot him on our last case together.
You shot him?
He was on a roof being held at knife point by a burglar. They were too close. I took the shot, but missed, and hit my partner instead.
Oh my, you poor darling. Is he angry with you?
Well, he is now. He doesn't think it's a good idea to tell others about him. But normally, he's the same as he was in life. He just wants me to find the man responsible for his death. I've told him I'm really the one responsible, but he insists it's the burglar.
I see. This is quite the unfortunate situation. My advice to you is this. Spirits often know best. You do well to listen to him about keeping his presence to yourself. Not everyone is as open-minded as we members of the Spectre Society.
Huh. Maybe I misjudged her.
I know. It's been hardest keeping this from my wife, but I can't drive her away. She's all I've really got left.
Your story has touched me, Mr. Fordham. I will do everything I can to help you and your spirit guide find peace. If I find anything out which might help you, I will contact you personally.
Thank you, Miss Maxwell. I appreciate it.
Well, that could have turned out much worse. I'm warning you, Miles. Tell anyone else about me, and I won't be so forgiving.
Thank you for the information. It was very enlightening.
It was my pleasure, darling.
Huh. I still feel kind of 50-50 about this. Kind of more like loading the save, but it could be something, I guess. Oh, the cross! I never examined the cross. Anything interesting? Yeah, I didn't want to mention that, and I don't think she needs to know this. Besides, she didn't really help me here by me telling her all of this stuff. But she could help me in the future. Who knows if she will. Yeah, I said already several times, normally I wouldn't have told her about this. It's only because I'm stuck and who knows what I missed. Maybe I have to scan the screen. There's also nothing I could do with this. No, I mean it's probably just this
it's coming from
simple note, nothing on the backside or anything. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have to
I'll be going now.
Scan the screen at the guy's place. Let me go back to home. My home. See Antonio.
I'm here.
Hello, Miles.
She said she'd contact me or
Let
something.
her read in peace for now.
Yeah.
Enjoy your reading.
Give my
I also don't buy this line where, oh, our children are going to the same school, so I mean it might work.
Welcome back. Let me know if I can help you with anything.
But I'm not very convinced. There is the clock.
My grandma, now that it has...
Nothing about the clock.
This guy's been in business.
Parsons,
Come to think of it.
interesting. The jacket, the other
Cody.
jacket.
Isaac Samuels, the prime minister who freed the slaves. They say even his enemies wept on the day he died. I sure hope I get to meet. Quite the selection.
Yeah. I thought there would be something interesting on this table, but no. There isn't his table. Not really.
That cloth will be, or maybe
I don't know, weird enough. I guess I'm kinda stuck. Make another save. What a disaster.
judging from
Who's
the position
this?
and the lock.
Oh, probably his
Impressive
money.
collection of pattern books. I wish I'd known about.
Alright, here goes nothing.
I've got some more questions for you.
All right, I'll do my best to answer them.
Or maybe I want to be thrown out, but then I don't know. Let's see.
Please, Mr. Solomon, it's extremely important that I get Mrs. Walker's address.
So you said, but why should I?
I know I said I was a private investigator before, but there's a more delicate reason I want to speak with Mrs. Walker.
Oh?
Her son, Alexander, and mine were schoolmates. I just found a book he lent my son, and I wanted to return it. I've been trying to track her down for ages, and only just found out where she worked.
Oh, I see. It was a terrible tragedy what happened with her boy and her husband. I know how private Mrs. Walker is, but I'm sure she would appreciate you returning her son's book. All right, she lives at 403 St. Agnes Street.
Remember when you couldn't even bring yourself to trick people into thinking their shoelaces were untied? You've come a long way, Miles.
I'll be taking my leave of you now, Mr. Solomon.
Very good.
Okay then, I'm an awful detective. Confirmed. It's official. But didn't he said she's gonna come to work tomorrow or next week or whenever it was, like, what's so urgent? Anyway, no comment.
Says here that Linda Walker is in the upstairs apartment, and someone named Douglas Emafiel is under the stairs. Some people would call that humming and hissing the sound of progress. I'd call it annoying. Nobody home. Now what?
What? Who are you? Are you from the Steamworks?
Afraid not, sir.
Damn. Oh well, what can I do for you?
Why did you think I was from the Steamworks?
Because I contacted them a few days ago when my boiler broke, and nobody has come to repair it yet. I should have known better. Those fools always take their time, if they even bother showing up at all. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in here with nothing but cold water. If I catch pneumonia and die, you'll know who to blame.
Do you know Linda Walker?
Of course. She lives upstairs. Who's asking?
I'm Miles Fordham. I'm trying to find Linda so I can speak with her.
What's your business with her?
I'm afraid that's private.
Well, she's out right now. You'll have to come back another time if you want to visit her.
Have you got any idea when Mrs. Walker will be back?
Not for a few days. She told me she was going away for a bit. Ah, that reminds me. She asked me to water her plants while she was gone. Just need to remember where I put the spare key.
Did you say something about having a spare key to Mrs. Walker's apartment?
Sure, I'm her landlord. I look after the place when she's gone. Got a bit of a green thumb, that one, so she puts me in charge of watering her plants. The trip up is a bit of a pain, though. My hips aren't what they used to be.
I'm a private detective, and it's of the utmost importance that I get that key from you.
Right. Private detective. I don't have to do anything you say. You're not really the law. So nice try, but I'm not betraying Mrs. Walker's trust so easily.
He says that now, but I'm willing to bet he'd do it if it benefited him in some way.
Sorry to bother you, sir. I'll just be on my way.
Okay, so I kinda remember there was something with this. There's some sort of a person. I wanna explore the. Oh, I cannot explore that. Okay, so much for my exploration. Let's see what this is all about, because I think there was a pharaoh state here as well. Hey, maybe I can do that first. For funsies.
Miles, what are you doing? You don't know the first thing about steam engine repair.
It can't be that hard to work out.
If you're serious about getting it fixed, I'd suggest looking for someone who knows about this sort of thing first. But if you just want to charge in blindly, be my guest.
What do you mean? I'm a perfect detective and steam engine technician and all that good stuff. If I remember correctly, you were supposed to ask Adelaide for help here. I don't know how she knows about this, but anyway.
Fine fuel source. These pipes are connected to the flue. They must heat up the water in this overgrown tea kettle.
Seems like I may need some help. But first I'm gonna struggle for an hour and a half trying to figure it out.
These pipes are connected.
It won't go any further in that direction.
Wait, wasn't this supposed to be it? It's in the green. Maybe they all have to be active. Oh, so I guess that's how it started or something.
Well, color me impressed. You're either extremely lucky, or you've done this sort of thing before.
Oh, ye of little faith.
Nice, I did it actually. Hold on, I wanna fail. I think it blew up or something. There was something with this puzzle. I wanna see the animation.
Miles, what are you doing? You don't know
Yay. Oops.
What the? My boiler! What have you done?
I do apologize.
You're one of those saboteurs, aren't you? One of those Redites!
No,
I'm calling the police, you no-good troublemaking bastard!
Now you've really done it, Miles. Best not to stick around here too long.
Nice. Okay, well, I've done it now.
You really made a mess of that thing, Miles.
Yeah, well, I have no idea if machines back then sounded like this, but I'm sure they didn't sound too differently. Alright, back to my usual save.
Yes? What is it?
I fixed the boiler for you.
What? Are you serious? It's pretty pathetic when some yahoo off the street does a better job than the people paid to do this sort of thing. I owe you, friend.
Might I take you up on that offer and get that spare key to the apartment?
Oh, right. You said you were a private detective, didn't you? Did Mrs. Walker do something wrong? Is she in trouble?
I'm not entirely sure yet, which is why I need to take a look inside her apartment.
I see. Well, I wouldn't normally do this, but you did me a great service by fixing the boiler. I can't just give you the spare key, but I can let you into the apartment.
That'll be just fine. Thank you.
What in the ether?
Cripes, did a tornado come through this place or what?
Looks as though she definitely left in a hurry. I wonder if she planned on ever coming back.
I'll be waiting for you in the kitchen, Mr. Fordham. Just let me know when you're done looking around.
I don't know about you, but I'm starting to have my fill of plants and flowers. There's a handwritten note here. Valerian mixed with chamomile, sedative effects, deep sleep.
Seems Mrs. Walker's an amateur herbalist.
Maybe not so amateur. I'd love to see the look on Mrs. Davis's face if she knew it wasn't a spirit that possessed her. In fact, let's go tell her, so I can see it.
You've gotten fairly misanthropic in your death, Bill.
Have I? I hadn't noticed. These will make great evidence in Linda's trial. Torn apart. She took most everything. Well, it doesn't appear she had much to take. Torn apart. And the books she left behind are all trashy romance novels. Why wouldn't she take those? They're clearly the best ones. I thought my apartment was messy. You're actually gonna dig through that mess? I sure hope it's worth it. A receipt with yesterday's date. One-way train ticket to Pierre in Lorraine. Departed this afternoon.
Thought she could get away easy, it seems. Well, I hate to disappoint her.
boy. Can't be more than 7 or 8 years old. If that's Linda's son, why would she leave this behind?
Good question.
Well, at least that painting cheers the place up a little bit. That bit of torn wallpaper looks almost deliberate. What do you know? She hid a book behind the wallpaper. Looks like a journal.
Well. April 5th. I don't believe it can be true. At tonight's meeting, I struck up a conversation with Henrietta. Charles Harris was born the day Alexander died. And he has blue eyes. I know I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but this is too perfect to be a fluke. To be sure, I need to find something of Alexander's appropriate for an infant. Maybe his old bear? Okay. Well, there was a book at the society place about some of this stuff. Then again, she goes off by blue eyes and the day. Legit. April 20th. Charles loved Barney. Henrietta told me she's never seen him react with such joy to any of his other playthings. There is no doubt now in my mind. Charles Harris is the reincarnation of my beloved Alexander. At last we can be together again. At last I can seek his forgiveness. I just need to find a way to take him from his false parents without getting dear Henrietta in trouble. Okay. August 24th. I had a nightmare again last night. Alexander's cries of "Why did you do it, mother?" were nearly too much to bear. When I have him again, I can finally explain that I couldn't do anything to stop him. Thomas was a monster, and I was at my wit's end. Dear Samuel had helped me so much, and there was no turning back once he had consumed the tainted pie. How was I to know Alexander's friend would take you and he would arrive home early? Watching my boy share the poison meal with his father was the worst moment of my life. I must get him back. October 6th. Finally, after months of thinking, I have a plan. Samuel's instruction on the nature of plans has been the key. I will visit Henrietta tonight at the Harris residence and prepare everything. It must look as though a burglar entered the nursery and tore his coat. In 2 nights, I'll have my baby again.
Well, this is pretty damn incriminating.
You don't
I'll
say.
say. Now we just need to figure out how she managed to drug Mrs. Davis.
Oh, we've
Oh,
got
we
you
do?
now, Linda. Thought you could be clever and get away with the baby, did you?
Bill?
Well, you thought wrong. With Fordham and Legere on the case, the only thing you're getting is a one-way trip to jail.
Bill?
And the worst part is how sloppy she was. I mean, really? She couldn't think to pick up a button? She might as well have left a signed confession in the crib for all the good it did her.
Bill, would you just shut up, for God's sake? Huh? Is everything all right?
Yes, everything's just fine. I just stubbed my toe on the bed frame.
Right.
You ought to be more careful, Mr. Fordham.
Sorry, Miles. You know how I get when we're close to solving a case.
You always do this. I need to concentrate, and I can't hear myself think with you yapping away.
Right, sorry. I'll keep it to myself.
Thank you.
But you have to admit, she really would have saved us the trouble if...
Bill.
Right, not another peep. As you were.
So good. Okay, by the way, didn't we figure that one out? Oh, not the details, I guess. I mean,
These will
we
make
got
great
this.
evidence in Linda's trial.
Some patterns?
Nice patterns. I wonder if Linda makes all her own clothes. A fairly recent model. Linda must have spent a good portion of her wages on it.
Let me read this again. Location. Her journal. Notes about plants. Geraldo Valerian and Kilma Perfect Sedative. Yeah. We already got that. We already got that.
I hope you were able to find out what you needed.
Yes, thank you for your cooperation.
Yep, I found plenty. Now the question is, who do I go to? Upton is an obvious choice. Do I tell her anything about this? I'm curious as to what she's gonna say.
Hello again, Mr. Fordham.
I have some questions for you, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
Mrs. Davis, where did you get the tea you drank on the night of the kidnapping?
From my own private supply, I drink a blend of hibiscus and elderberry. It clears the mind and puts me more in tune with the spirits.
Did it taste off to you?
No. Why do you ask?
Because I think your tea may have been drugged.
Wait, are you saying?
I believe Mrs. Walker used her own herbs to drug your tea, knowing you'd drink a cup the following evening. She then snuck into the house after you'd fallen asleep and took the child.
Oh my word, I never would have thought.
I know, Mrs. Davis, but don't worry, I'm doing everything I can to find her.
Oh, may the spirits guide you, Mr. Fordham.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Well, I'd say we have everything we need to prove it was Linda who drugged Mrs. Davis's tea and took the child. And we know where she's going, too. Upton will want to know about this as soon as possible.
Oh, and only now she was added as a suspect. Interesting. After all the info we collected.
I'll be going now, Mrs.
Her
Davis.
place.
May the spirits guide your path.
I'm sure Upton can wait. Let me check with everyone else. See if this lady has anything to say.
Welcome back, Mr. Fordham.
I don't think there's anything she can help with right now.
I'll be going now.
Oh, that's a shame. Okay. Well then, Upton it is.
Can we talk?
Go on, I'm listening.
I'm ready to wrap this case up.
Okay, who's your prime suspect?
It was Linda Walker,
Who is she?
a seamstress who befriended the Harris family nanny. She took the child because she believes he's the reincarnation of her deceased son, whom she accidentally poisoned.
My God.
You'll find a journal explaining her motive at her apartment, as well as the plants she used to drug Mrs. Davis.
But what about the broken window in the nursery?
All part of a false crime scene she set up to draw our attention away from her.
Excellent work, Miles. Did you manage to find out where Mrs. Walker is now?
Yes, I found a receipt for a one-way train ticket to Pierre, which departed this afternoon.
Fantastic. We can send a telegram to the train station and have her arrested upon arrival. You've done extremely well, Fordham. Snelling could only hope to have a detective as good as you again.
You flatter me.
Then I'd better stop before your head gets any bigger. All right, Miles. I'll go through the proper channels and report your information as an anonymous tip. And of course, I'll dip into the department's Good Samaritan Fund to get you proper compensation for your work. For now, go home to your wife. I'm sure I'll have something else for you to look into fairly soon.
Welcome to Lorraine. An awfully cute baby you got there.
Oh, thank you, sir. This is my son, Alexander.
Alexander. That's a good name. Strong name.
Yes, thank you. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm in a bit of a hurry and I need to get to my hotel.
Of course. I won't keep you any longer, Mrs. Walker.
Thank you. Wait. How did you know my name?
I didn't. It was a lucky guess. But now, seeing as I know your name, allow me to tell you mine. I'm Sheriff Zeke Dollarhide. Linda Walker, you are under arrest for the kidnapping of Charles Harris. Surrender the child and come with me.
No, you've got it all wrong. This is my son. This is my Alexander.
Ma'am, please don't make this difficult. Come along to the station and we'll get this all sorted out.
Addie, are you home?
Still at her appointment, it would seem. You know, Miles, I have to say, I'm proud of you.
Why's that?
It's because you actually listened.
So does this mean you'll keep quiet until morning?
I said I was proud of you. I didn't say you were getting a reprieve.
Then I need to figure out how I'm going to sleep through the night without the soporific.
You worry about that too much, Miles. You can sleep when you're dead.
You don't ever seem to.
That's because I slept quite enough when I was alive.
In any case, I need to clear my head. The best way to do that after a case was always going for a drink at the Angel.
The Angel? But you haven't been there since...
Since you died. But perhaps getting back into old routines will help.
Perhaps. It would be nice to see old Patrick again at the very least. Then it's settled. A drink or two at the Angel, for old time's sake.
I have to say, it's been a real pleasure having you back, Miles. I was worried about you.
I appreciate your concern, Patrick. The past few months have been a bit rough, but it's good to be back in familiar territory.
Miles, can I ask you something?
What is it?
Well, it may be none of my business, and you can feel free to tell me to stuff it.
Enough with the preamble, Patrick. Just ask.
I know you quit the force, but why are you still working as a private investigator? Why not leave all that detecting stuff behind?
It's just something I have to do. If I don't, I'll go crazy.
It's rare to meet someone so dedicated to their profession.
No, it's not that. It's something else. It's really not worth getting into.
Fair enough, fair enough. Just figured I'd ask. Now then, will you be wanting another drink?
I'm not sure. I've already had 2. I should probably be getting... Wait a minute. Patrick, do you hear something?
No, Miles. I don't hear anything.
Neither do I. Another gin, if you please.
Coming right up.
I must have taken a wrong turn back there. Hopefully Addie won't hear me come in.
Excuse me, sir. Could you spare a shilling?
Here you are, my good man.
You always were willing to help the less fortunate, weren't you? But perhaps you should start thinking about helping yourself.
I beg your pardon?
Just look at yourself. I may be a beggar, but even I feel sorry for you.
Do I know you from somewhere?
Yes, that's right. I'm your biggest failure.
What are you talking about?
Come now, Miles, you're not completely stupid. You think finding and catching me is going to make things better?
I don't know. It might not, but at least I'll have closure.
Again with the lying to yourself. Let's say you do find me, and this grand chase finally ends. What do you do the next morning? You still have a dead partner, no real job. Your wife knows you've been keeping things from her. Even if you solve 100 cases, it won't relieve that empty feeling inside.
What's your point?
I'm all you've got, Miles. Once I'm gone, there'll be nothing left. So just admit it. You don't want to find me. Not really.
Bad dreams?
You could say that. My head. How many drinks did I have last night?
You're asking the wrong person. I was out after the first one.
It seems Miss Maxwell was right about the effects of spirits. Go figure.
Yeah, well, let's not make a habit out of it, all right?
So, you're up at last.
Is something the matter, Addie?
Oh, I see. You don't remember last night, do you? I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
I'm guessing whatever happened last night didn't put me in your good books?
That's putting it mildly.
What happened exactly?
It was nearly 2 when you burst in here, soused to the eyeballs from God knows where. I imagine you've probably forgotten that too. You were muttering something about peace and quiet and then proceeded to relieve yourself on my begonias before stumbling into bed.
Charming. I salute you, O Vice Admiral of the Narrow Seas.
Good God. How embarrassing. I'm so sorry, Addie. I don't know what came over me.
I don't either. I've never seen you in such a state, and I pray that I never will again.
I swear to you, this was a one-time mistake. You won't see me like that again.
What possessed you to go out and get so drunk anyway?
I decided to stop taking the soporific. It was interfering with my ability to focus on cases. I thought perhaps having a drink or two would help me sleep, and I got a bit carried away.
I see. Well, I'm at least glad you've stopped taking that terrible medicine. But trading it for alcohol? This had better really be a one-time occurrence. Anyway, you got another message from Upton. It's there on the table, if you're feeling fit for the world now.
And I swear this is totally going fine. Let's see what's this about. For them, a new case has come in, but the police are already investigating. Details have made their way into the newspaper. I won't be able to meet you at Rowan, so here are the details. The deceased is Desiree Layton, something like that. Her apartment is at 840 right way. Good luck. Alright.
What does Upton say this time?
That she can't meet me, and that I should go straight to the scene of the crime.
I wonder if that means the police have started to suspect that she's giving you these cases.
She also says news of this case has been made public, and the police are already investigating. Have you heard of Desiree Lathan?
Yes, there's something about her in today's paper. I didn't read the article, though. Where's the crime scene?
840 right way. It's not too far from here, thankfully.
You're sure you're feeling up to this today?
I'll be fine. The mental exercise will get me back to normal in no time.
Until you drink again. I might as well read the paper. Harris baby found, suspect in custody. Charles Harris, infant son of Malcolm and Miriam Harris was kidnapped days ago from his crib at the Harris family manor. Police investigators determined that Linda Walker, a friend of the baby's nanny, was the kidnapper. Walker was arrested in Pierre, Lorraine after fleeing New Britannia with the child. Charles is second in line to inherit the Harris Construction Company, a large contractor in New Britannia, currently building the HMS Lenore, the airship intended to replace the fallen Ligeia. Chief of Police Reginald Snelling issued the following statement: "My detectives should be commended for the outstanding work they did in finding baby Charles and bringing him home safely. Let this be a lesson to all criminals that the New Britannia police always get their suspect." Yeah, well, I am none of your detectives anymore, at least. Gascon Grandin found burned to death. Desiree Lathan, aged 63, was found burned to death in her home yesterday morning. Police were called to the scene by a neighbor who smelled smoke, only to find the grisly scene. Miss Layton in her bed, body burned to ashes. The circumstances of Miss Layton's death are unknown, but the police have not ruled out the possibility of foul play. Layton was born in New Britannia, the daughter of a wealthy plantation owner. She grew to become one of the most loved and respected of the Gascon Grandams, although she had many suitors over the years. Layton never married. An avid reader, writer, and poet, Miss Layton had several articles published in local newspapers and magazines. The residents of Gascon said they would miss seeing her in her brightly colored hats and dresses as she walked by. Third mysterious murder has police on edge. Yet another murder in Chumley has the New Britannia police scrambling to quell rumors. Chief of Police Reginald Snelling vehemently denied that there is a mass murderer stalking in the shadowy corners of Lamplight City. We have no indication whatsoever that these recent Chumley murders are in any way linked. In any case, detectives are working their hardest to make sure the killer or killers are found and brought to justice, he said. The Gazette has learned that the latest victim is Ennis Bowditch, a construction worker. Police were called to his home, where they found him with a single gunshot wound to the head. Despite Snelling's claims to the contrary, the previous two victims have also been men in Chumley who have been killed in exactly the same manner. The Gazette will continue coverage of this story as more details emerge. And Prime Minister's campaign heads up as election looms. With election night less than a month away, Prime Minister Herbert Atwood has lashed out against his opponent with full force. "My opponent, Mr. Leroy, if elected, will push this country back at least 20 years. Atwood went on to describe how Leroy's refusal to acknowledge the existence of Ethericity as well as his lukewarm stance on steam technology would be detrimental to Vespucci's progress. Leroy, meanwhile, continued to chastise Atwood for his prioritizing machines over humans, saying that if he is re-elected, unemployment rates will skyrocket when most workers are replaced by automated machines. The latest public opinion poll shows Atwood with a comfortable lead. However, many have criticized the polls for not including the majority of the workforce, Leroy's strongest supporters. Continued on page 12. Alright.
Well, this is shaping up to be quite the investigation.
Yep.
I should probably get a move on before the police ruin the crime scene any more than they already have.
Good luck, Miles. And stay away from the bars, would you?
I'll try. Well, I'm actually gonna save here and I'm gonna go. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.